So lettering is a really weird profession. I get paid to draw words and letters and phrases all day. There's calligraphers who write letters, there's letterers who draw letters, and then there's type designers who draw letters but as a part of a system that all kind of works together, and that's where you get your fonts from. So lettering is kind of like, I'm not the engineer or the architect that builds the skyscraper that can then be replicated in Hong Kong, which would be the type designer. I'm more like your weird uncle who builds you like a really special dollhouse and then will never do it again. I'm Jessica Hische, and I'm a lettering artist and author living in San Francisco. Well, what happened for Moonrise Kingdom was that I drew everyone's name in the beginning of the film, and then I made a typeface to use for the end credits. It's very rare that I get to collaborate directly with another artist on a project like that. It was really awesome and special to feel like it was this very artistic collaboration and didn't feel like a cut and dry client project. I got started in lettering, well, if I had to roll it all the way back, it would probably be me drawing all of the popular kids' names on their Trapper Keepers. I went to art school to just study drawing and painting, and when I was in college I discovered graphic design, which I was completely obsessed with. Being able to solve problems and work on the behalf of clients just totally blew open my world in terms of being able to have an excuse to create every day. So when I'm brainstorming, what I first do is I do research. When it comes to doing anything for a book, it means reading the book. When I'm doing editorial illustration, it means reading the article. A good place to start is by redoing the design of something that you already love. Like maybe there's some fantasy book that you grew up loving, but you always hated the cover. I get much more out of making these sort of like verbal brainstorming lists. When it comes to harmony, the first words that came to mind were smooth, grace, musical, nature, natural, flowing. But the thing that's great is that because I'm not making pretty art at that stage, I don't judge myself for whatever I'm going to write down. The only thing that I worry about is that someone's going to discover my notebooks later and think I was like a total maniac. Everything that I do starts off as a sketch, whether that sketch is done in a sketchbook or on an iPad or on a piece of loose leaf paper or on a napkin at a bar. Like, it just depends on how I feel that day and how prepared I am with my materials. And then once I kind of have my layout figured out, then I'll use a more intense pencil. So when people look through my sketchbooks, they think like, wow, you do it perfect the first time, every time, when really there's like layers and layers and layers of erased, very light sketches underneath of what you see here. First, what I'll do is I'll lay down my baseline, which is what the letters sit on top of. And then next I'll figure out what I want my X height to be. So the X height is the height of the lowercase letters. So if I made my X height really tall and I wanted to fit my word within this space, it would mean that my letters would be really, really skinny. And if I made my X height really short and I wanted to fit the word within this space, it would mean that my letters would be really wide. So I'm gonna do something kind of in between. And what I'll first do is sort of set down a very light drawing. So I think one of the things that you should remind yourself when you're starting out in lettering is that being naive can be really amazing because you do weird things that people with experience do not know how to do anymore. So don't think about your lack of experience as being a disadvantage. Think about it as being an advantage because you can make stranger art that can be super cool and random versus someone that has a ton of experience. They have a really hard time breaking the rules. I'll go in and add my fix and thins. I know that any place where a pen would have made a downstroke instead of an upstroke is likely where that thickness is going to be. I'm going to scan my art so that I can put it on my computer. Now I have a proper scanner, but I haven't used it in like 5 years because of amazing apps. I have a perfect scan. The biggest advice I can give you is don't let the intimidation of actually starting down the path to do anything be what stops you, because it's hard for everybody. It's hard for people with all the confidence and talent in the world to start projects. I'm a big, like, eraser dust everywhere person. Just like, that's it, cut.